On a chilly afternoon in late autumn, Emma stood still in the fading light of a small park, her breath floating in the air like whispered secrets. The trees were turning a brilliant gold, their leaves swirling in the gentle wind. She felt the crisp air on her skin and the weight of uncertainty in her heart. Just a week before, she had been a bride-to-be, dreaming of lace and laughter. Now those dreams felt far away, lost in the whirlwind of events. Emma had recently called off her wedding. The decision had been as thick and heavy as the mud that trailed behind her as she walked through the park. She felt like she was stuck, unable to find a way out. With each step, her mind wandered back to the plans she once had, the happy faces, the flowers, the love. Now each precious image was mudded by doubt and confusion. Suddenly, something caught her eye. As she walked along the gravel path, she noticed a glimmer in the mud beneath an old oak tree. Curious, she moved closer, pushing through the branches. What she saw took her breath away, a wedding dress, beautifully designed but caked in dirt and grime. She knelt down to get a better look. The fabric was soft and delicate, with intricate lacework and tiny beads that sparkled even in their sorry state. Emma's heart raced. What was a wedding dress doing out here in the mud? As she gently brushed away the dirt with her fingers, she thought about the bride who once wore it. Did she feel as lost as Emma did? Was she also abandoned on what should have been one of the happiest days of her life? A flood of emotions washed over her, sympathy for the girl she had never met and a reminder of her own heartbreak. Just then, she heard a rustle behind her. Startled, Emma turned around. Standing a few feet away was a woman in her 30s, her face a canvas of concern. She asked, her eyes wide with disbelief. Emma felt the air grow thick with unsaid words as she nodded. "I found it here." The woman stepped closer, her shock giving way to hope. "I can't believe it." Her voice trembled as she reached out, almost as if touching the dress could mend her broken heart. Emma asked, not fully certain why she was so drawn to this stranger. The woman let out a bittersweet laugh. Yes, her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "The wedding didn't happen, not exactly. He left. I couldn't bear to see the dress, so I threw it away." Emma felt a strange connection form between them, like two pieces of a puzzle fitting together. "I canceled my wedding too," she shared, her voice softer now. The woman took a step back, surprise painted on her face. "Really?" "Yeah," Emma responded, shrugging as if to shield herself from the pain. The stranger looked down at the dress, her fingers trembling as they grazed the delicate fabric. "It's like a part of me was lost in that mud," she said quietly. "Maybe we can help each other find ourselves again," Emma suggested, surprising even herself with the words. The woman's name was Sarah. They spent the next hour talking, sharing stories that wrinkled their hearts and opened doors they thought were forever shut. Sarah spoke of her wedding plans, the dreams she once held so tightly, and how her world came crashing down when her partner chose to leave. "I poured everything into my dream wedding, but he didn't see it the way I did," she said, her voice breaking slightly. Emma nodded. She felt the same way. "It's like we put on these dresses and we think they'll transform our lives into something magical." They both took a moment, the weight of shared heartache hanging in the air. There was something powerful about finding a kindred spirit, someone who understood the fragile threads of love, hope, and disappointment. Sarah said softly, looking straight into Emma's eyes. As dusk fell, the sunlight faded slowly, casting long shadows over the park. The chilly breeze picked up, but Emma and Sarah remained seated, wrapped in their newfound friendship. They realized they had both lost pieces of themselves, but had also found something greater. Sarah carefully lifted the dress, brushing away the remaining mud, as if recovering a part of her identity. She asked, a spark of hope igniting in her eyes. "Of course," Emma replied, a smile creeping onto her face. As they left the park together, there was a weight lifted from Emma's heart. The laughter started to bubble up between them, carrying with it a sense of rebirth. They shared stories of resilience, dreams that had shifted, and how they both were learning to navigate this new chapter of their lives. Weeks went by and they grew closer. They met for coffee, visited art galleries, and even joined a local support group for women recovering from broken relationships. They were frank about their experiences, sharing not only their pain but also their hopes. As they laughed and cried together, Emma began to feel the fog lift. One day, while sitting on a park bench surrounded by a sea of golden leaves, Sarah turned to Emma. "You know, I've been thinking, what if we documented this journey, our healing, our growth?" Emma's heart raced at the thought. That's a brilliant idea, so they began. They filmed their conversations, their walks, and their moments of triumph. They spoke openly about their heartbreaks, but also about the light they were finding. They found strength in vulnerability, and strangely, among the broken bits, so many beautiful pieces began to shine. One afternoon, Sarah shared a text from her old fiancé. He was reaching out, trying to reconnect. Emma watched the mix of emotions wash over her friend's face. "I don't know if I should reply," Sarah said, anxiety creeping into her voice. "Only respond if it feels right," Emma advised. "Remember what we've talked about, the importance of knowing your worth." After a moment of silence, Sarah smiled and nodded. "You're right." A few months later, on a bright sunny day, they decided to participate in a local charity event, helping to set up a fashion show. As the models strutted down the runway in stunning dresses, Emma could hardly believe how far she had come. With Sarah by her side, she had rediscovered parts of herself that were buried in the shadows. She realized she was no longer defined by her past relationship, but by the friendships and connections she had fostered. Just when Emma thought the journey had brought her enough joy, Sarah turned to her with a secret smile. "I want to wear my dress, you know." Emma felt a rush of happiness. Yes, on a chilly evening filled with stars, Sarah donned her wedding dress. She looked radiant. With Emma's help, they transformed the once sturdy fabric into something extraordinary. With every spin, every laughter, the dress seemed to dance, telling a story of hope and resilience. Both women understood that love might not have turned out as they had planned, but it had led them to each other, to a deeper understanding of who they were becoming. They spent the night celebrating beneath the twinkling stars, letting go of the past and embracing their future. In time, Emma, too, found herself stepping confidently into her own new chapter. Inspired by her friendship with Sarah, she began to create a life filled with passion, adventure, and unshakable belief in herself. And beneath the vast sky, the whispers of lost dreams transformed into melodies of newfound hope and light, proving that sometimes when life seems to pull you apart, it can also grant you a gift. A stranger found her dress in the mud, and in those dark moments she also found herself. The sky was a bruised gray, heavy with impending rain as Emma stumbled through the mud, her shoes squelching with each step. Her heart felt like a lump in her throat, and each breath seemed harder than the last. Just days earlier, she was preparing to marry the love of her life, or at least she thought she was. But here she was, alone in a deserted park, wanting to escape the whirlwind of emotions that had brought her to this very moment. Then she saw it, a shimmer peeking through the thick, dark mud at the base of an old oak tree. Duty called, and she took a step closer, driven by curiosity. As she knelt, brushing away the dirt, her breath caught in her throat. There it was, a wedding dress, beautiful yet battered by the elements. The fabric was soft as it slipped beneath her fingers, still holding onto its elegance despite the mud caking it. Her heart raced. Who had once worn this dress? Did it belong to a bride who had shared her hopes and dreams before they were washed away? Emma could feel the weight of that story pressing against her own heartache. For her, the fairy tale had crumbled, leaving her with uncertainty and sorrow. Just as she stood there, lost in thoughts, a voice pierced through the silence. A young woman appeared, her eyes wide with disbelief. Taken aback, Emma looked up, still cradling the mud-streaked gown. I think it is." The woman approached cautiously, her breath mixing with the cool air. "I can't believe it." She reached out, almost touching the dress as if it were a lost child. "I'm Emma," she replied softly, her mind racing with questions. Taking a deep breath, Sarah's voice trembled. "I was supposed to get married last month. Tears filled her eyes as she glanced at the gown like it was a portal to her past, one filled with hopes that now felt like ash. "I know how you feel," Emma said, surprising herself. "I called off my wedding just days before." The air thickened with the truth they both shared. It was uncomfortable, filled with pain. Yet in that moment, Emma felt an unexpected spark of connection. Two strangers, both grappling with shattered dreams, brought together in this strange place. Sarah murmured, looking at the dress like it was too heavy to carry alone. "Maybe we share our stories, it might help," Emma suggested, her words wrapping around the uncertainty like a comforting blanket. They found a nearby bench, its surface slick from recent rain. As they sat, a dance of emotions played out between them, sadness, anger, and a flicker of hope. They opened up, dropping their masks and revealing their hearts. Emma spoke of her relationship, the plans that spiraled out of control, leaving her feeling hollow. Sarah revealed her dreams of a perfect wedding, the joy she had envisioned, now replaced with emptiness. "I spent so long planning every detail, only to watch it all crumble," Sarah said, wiping away a tear. "Me too," Emma replied, her voice steady. They fell into a rhythm, their stories intertwining in a melodious weave of trust and understanding. It felt cathartic to speak, the heavy weight of shared pain lightening like a passing storm cloud. With determination, Sarah took hold of the dress, brushing off the mud with gentle fingers. "Let's see if we can clean this up." As they carefully removed the dirt, it was as if they were uncovering more than just a dress. They were rediscovering parts of themselves. The laughter rang out, mingling with the fresh scent of earth after rain. Each shared moment transformed into a stepping stone, leading them toward healing. Days turned into weeks. Emma and Sarah forged an unbreakable bond, meeting regularly. They embarked on a mission together to bring life back into the wedding dress. They crafted plans, joking about how it would need a fancy debut, a grand announcement, something that would allow it to step back into the spotlight. One rainy Saturday, they gathered at Sarah's apartment, surrounded by dye and fabric cleaners. Together, they transformed the tattered remnants into a canvas of hope, tea, and laughter coloring their workspace. The dress became a vessel for their renewed dreams, a symbol of resilience. One evening, as they were uproariously debating how the dress should look, Sarah paused. "Do you ever wonder if love is something we often romanticize? I thought it would be perfect, but where did all that get me?" Emma nodded slowly, her thoughts echoing the same question. "But look at us," Sarah smiled, her spirit glowing. With every touch of the fabric, the dress transformed into a declaration of hope, a stark reminder that their stories didn't end. Emma felt invigorated by Sarah's resilience, and in turn, Sarah found strength in Emma's unwavering support. They were both mending. That fall, the day arrived. Sarah, wearing the newly revived gown, stood before a circle of friends, their laughter adding warmth to the cool autumn air. In that moment, the park transformed into a vivid tableau of companionship. Each smile was a thread weaving their joy together, showcasing the beauty that emerged from heartache. "Today I'm reclaiming this dress," Sarah announced with a twinkle in her eye, her voice steady. They all erupted into cheers, and as she twirled, the fabric spun around her, catching the light like starlight shimmering after a storm. Emma watched in awe. This wasn't just a celebration of a dress, but a tribute to healing, friendship, and the persistent, brilliant nature of hope. Afterward, as the sun set, Sarah turned to Emma, a knowing smile on her face. "What about you?" For the first time in months, Emma felt the tiniest flicker of excitement in her heart. "I think it's time I really start living for myself." "Let's do it together," Sarah said. Weeks turned into months, and Emma followed through on her promise. They climbed mountains and cooked together, savoring every little joy, each moment a reminder of what life could be. The heartache that once engulfed them began to fade, replaced with laughter and passion. Then one bright morning, Emma found herself at the foot of a hill, peering through her camera lens at the sprawling landscape. She felt alive, filled with a purpose she had forgotten. As she captured the scene, she spotted a man in the distance, a fellow hiker with the kind of smile that could light up the darkest corners of the world. Their eyes met, and in that flicker of connection, something new ignited within her. It felt strange yet familiar, like the prelude to a symphony yet to be played. Life was shifting again, like the seasons filled with potential waiting to unfold. Days turned into years, and their friendship withstood the test of time. Emma explored new horizons, feeling grounded by Sarah's unwavering support. Sarah blossomed as well, embracing her own adventures, learning to love herself first. They often returned to that park, standing by the old oak tree where their paths had intertwined. Each visit was brighter than the last, filled with laughter and memories. The wedding dress, now framed and adorned in Sarah's living room, stood as a testament to their journey. In unexpected ways, that simple dress had transformed them. It wasn't just fabric, it was a symbol of resilience, strength, and the deep connections forged in shared pain. They had shed their pasts like old skins, becoming stronger, braver, and intertwined in ways neither had anticipated. Through the mud, they had found what truly mattered: a profound friendship, the art of reclaiming life, and the promise that even in the depths of despair, beauty can emerge, blossoming like flowers after the heaviest of rains. And sometimes, when you least expect it, a stranger can lead you home. The rain had come down in sheets, turning the ground into a soupy mess. But as the clouds began to part, a glimmer caught Sarah's eye. Standing at the edge of a muddy trail, she squinted, unsure if she was imagining things. There, half buried in the mud, was something white that shone brightly against the dark earth. With a spark of curiosity, she trudged closer, her boots squishing with every step. As she approached, her breath caught in her throat. It was a wedding dress. The lace sleeves were splattered with muddy droplets, and the hem dragged down, dirty and heavy. A chill ran through her, but not from the cold. It was a reminder of dreams unrealized, of what could have been. What had once been a vision of love and joy was now a mere ghost, trapped in the elements. Sarah knelt down, her fingers brushing the fabric, and felt a lump form in her throat. Moments ago, she had been walking in search of closure. Instead, she had stumbled upon this haunting symbol of what she had lost. She thought back to her own wedding plans, the excitement in her heart. Laughter with friends as they picked flowers, the taste of the cake that had brought so much joy. But it all crumbled like a house of cards when he walked away. The memory felt fresh, a wound that refused to fully heal. With a deep breath, Sarah knew she had to rescue the dress. This wasn't just a piece of cloth. To her, it was a vessel of hope, a story waiting to be retold. She carefully retrieved it from the mud, holding it up like a precious artifact, muddy and imperfect, but still alive. Just then, a voice broke through her reverie. "Is that?" Startled, Sarah whipped around. A woman stood there, her eyes wide with disbelief, her hair slightly damp from the rain. "Are you?" Sarah asked, suddenly aware that the world had shrunk down to this moment, this connection. "Yes, I'm Emma," the woman replied, rushing forward. Emma reached out, hesitantly touching the fabric, tracing the intricate lace that was still somewhat intact. The emotion in her voice was palpable. Sarah's heart sank. A silence enveloped them, thick with shared pain. They stood there, two strangers bound together by heartache, each staring at a dream that had slipped through their fingers. Emma asked quietly, her eyes searching. "I called off my wedding," Sarah admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I canceled mine too, the love I thought I had." Emma's eyes were shiny, tears threatening but not spilling. "We both did," Sarah said, a newfound connection forming between them. "But look where we are." A soft laugh escaped Emma, breaking the tension. As they continued to speak, something shifted. The shared grief morphed into a lightness, an understanding that they were both navigating the same turbulent waters. Carrying the mud-covered dress between them, they decided right then to share their stories, their struggles, and their search for meaning in the chaos. The park had emptied, the rain leaving only faint echoes of what was. They slid onto a nearby bench, pulling the dress into their laps like a shared treasure. Emma shared her story first, the whirlwind romance that turned sour when doubts emerged. the last-minute decisions that led her to cancel her wedding, leaving her feeling empty. Sarah listened intently. "It's like we built these perfect castles in the air," she mourned. "Exactly," Emma nodded. They talked late into the evening, exchanging details they hadn't revealed to anyone else. Being raw and open allowed them to peel back the layers built from shame and confusion. There was something freeing about voicing these struggles, about watching the sadness take shape in the light of honesty. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting vibrant colors across the sky, the world seemed to fade away. In this moment, nothing else mattered, just two women united by loss and the promise that they could help each other find a new path. "I don't want to let this dress go," Sarah said suddenly, looking down at it with determination. "Let's fix it." Emma grinned, her eyes brightening. "I love that idea." Together they took the dress to Sarah's apartment that weekend. It was a tiny space, filled with mismatched furniture and overflowing with memories of past dreams. In the living room, they spread the dress across an old table and got to work cleaning, stitching, and laughing at their attempts to remember how to sew. As the days turned into weeks, the dress transformed slowly before their eyes. It went from something broken and abandoned to a collaborative effort of hope and friendship. They chose colors to enhance its beauty, like art resurrected from ashes. Each hour spent together brought them closer, their laughter echoing as they shared old stories, dreams that blossomed into new ideas. One evening, as they sat on the floor surrounded by thread and fabric swatches, Sarah spoke candidly. Emma's face turned serious. "I believe love is worth it, but it can be complicated." "It's humbling, isn't it?" Sarah whispered, looking out the window as the sun set. Their emotional bond deepened as they crafted not just a wedding dress, but a tapestry of resilience, stitched together with trust and understanding. Each cut of fabric became a healing moment, a step toward reclaiming their identities. As autumn turned to winter, the dress metamorphosed into something magical, an art piece that showcased both their hearts. When they finally stood back and looked at their creation, it was breathtaking. They had infused it with their journey, their scars, and their newfound strength. They decided to celebrate their labor of love with a small gathering of friends. On a chilly Saturday afternoon, Sarah donned the dress, the fabric now shimmering like hope rather than defeat. Standing in the park once more, the friends cheered, marveling at the transformation. "Today isn't just about the dress," Sarah said, her heart racing. "It's about reclaiming our stories." Laughter and applause enveloped her. Friends raised glasses filled with sparkling cider, celebrating not just a dress but the inexplicable bond they had formed through pain and resilience. Emma stood beside Sarah, radiating happiness. This was their moment of declaration that heartbreak would not define them, but rather serve as a reason to flourish. As she watched Sarah spin, the fabric swirling around her like a dance of liberation, Emma felt a rush of pride. In that cherished moment, they were no longer just lost souls, they were women renewed, finding joy in the aftershocks of loss. Later, as the day waned, the two friends sank onto a bench, the glow of light surrounding them. Emma turned to Sarah. "I want to explore," Sarah replied, her voice tinged with excitement. "Count me in," Emma said with a grin. With newfound determination, they made plans to hike trails and explore corners of their lives they had previously boxed away. It was liberating knowing they could craft a future beyond what had once felt like a prison of heartbreak. Soon they found themselves in the mountains, breathing in the crisp air and enjoying the sight of vast landscapes. Together they climbed, laughed, and ventured into the unknown, marveled at how far they had come. Each adventure brought them something new, a fresh perspective on life, love, and everything in between. They documented their journey, capturing memories like snapshots of hope for the future. They spoke openly about their heartaches and victories, reaching out to others like them who were stuck in the mud of their own stories. One sunny afternoon, as they sat atop a cliff with the horizon spread before them, a stranger approached. He was a fellow hiker, his charming smile alight in the vastness. Emma felt her heart race. He had that look, the kind that felt warm and inviting. They introduced themselves, and before long the conversation flowed effortlessly. Sarah nudged Emma playfully, sensing the spark. "I think this could be your next adventure," she teased. Emma laughed, her cheeks warming. Their shared laughter echoed as Emma and the stranger exchanged numbers, each hopeful. Infused with newfound energy, she felt lighter than air, and for the first time in a long time, she embraced the idea of love again, not as a weight, but as a possibility. As seasons changed, Sarah and Emma continued their journey, facing each challenge with grace and laughter. The park, the dress, and the stranger had woven their lives together, creating a tapestry of resilience indelibly marked with trust, courage, and friendship. In the end, they learned that heartaches might entangle you in mud, but it's also in that darkness that you can discover the most beautiful truths about yourselves, friendships that uplift, and the unexpected beauty of what lies ahead. Together, they dared to dream again, crafting a new life filled with adventure, love, and unshakable hope. And somehow, through it all, they had found each other, a bond that made the journey even more worth it. The rain had poured steadily all morning, drowning the city in a gloomy haze. But just as the clouds began to part, the sun broke through, casting glittering rays over everything. A small park, usually bustling with life, now lay quiet and soaked. That's when Sarah stepped onto the muddy path, her heart heavy with the weight of her own memories. As she walked, something shiny caught her eye. There, half buried in the muck, was a flash of white. Intrigued, she made her way over, her boots slipping slightly on the wet ground. When she got closer, her breath hitched. There it was, a wedding dress. The sight of it in such a state sent a chill down her spine. The once beautiful fabric was now soiled and tattered, but hints of its original beauty still lingered. Lace hugged the bodice, adorned with delicate beading, though the hem dragged sadly through the mud. Sarah knelt down, her fingers brushing the filth away like it was a long-lost treasure. She couldn't help but feel a connection to this forlorn garment. Who had worn this dress? What dreams had it once held? She thought of her own wedding, her plans, her vision of love, but those dreams had crumbled into dust, just like this dress, now dulled and abandoned. As she gently lifted it from the ground, the cool breeze rustled around her and her heart raced. It was more than just a dress, it was a story, a fragment of someone's life lost to disappointment. The rain had washed it clean, but the memories it carried felt heavy in the air. Just then, a voice broke through her thoughts. Sarah turned in surprise. A woman stood a few feet away, her hair clinging to her face, eyes wide with disbelief. Sarah asked, feeling like the clouds had shifted again. Yes, Emma rushed forward, her voice a mix of hope and desperation. I found it here in the mud, Sarah said, holding the dress out like an offering. As Emma reached for it, her fingers grazed the fabric, a rush of emotion flooding her. I was supposed to wear this last week, she said softly, her voice trembling. I canceled my wedding just days before. I called off mine too, Sarah confessed, a sense of solidarity washing over them. Between them hung the aura of shared heartbreak, two women connected in a moment that felt extraordinary. They stood in the mud, each weighed down by memories of love lost, and as they spoke, the rawness of their emotions began to unfold. Emma asked, her voice shaking. Sarah replied, shrugging as despair threatened to seep back in. As they embarked on this emotional journey together, the park around them faded. They shared stories of lost dreams, of plans dashed against the rocks of reality. For both, love had been an intoxicating whirlwind that left them breathless, and now here they were, bound by the remnants of a shared experience. With each word, they stripped away layers of grief, revealing the humanity lurking beneath. For Sarah, it was refreshing to finally voice her struggle, to share her experiences without judgment, and Emma found solace in knowing she wasn't in this alone. I don't want to let this dress go, Emma said suddenly, her voice filled with resolve. Sarah agreed, a smile breaking through the gloom. That could be our project. Determined, they took the dress to Sarah's apartment, a cozy space filled with mismatched furniture and remnants of her past. Together, they laid the gown on an old table, and like artists with a canvas, they began to breathe new life into it. They cleaned, cut, and transformed the tattered fabric, each snip of the scissors accompanied by laughter and the warmth of companionship. Day by day, as they worked side by side, something magical began to happen. With every tear they mended, every stitch they added, their burdens seemed a little lighter. The dress evolved from a symbol of sorrow into a testament to their resilience. Every evening they shared laughter, sneaking in glances that evolved from tentative to warm. Sarah would share stories of planning her wedding, of laughter with friends as they picked flowers and designed centerpieces. Emma recounted moments of joy, the thrill of finding the perfect dress, only to have it morph into a haunting reminder. At one point, Emma paused, searching for the right words. Absolutely, Sarah replied. It's beautiful, but it can also be destructive. It's like... Their conversations meandered between heartbreak and laughter, weaving a bond more profound than either had expected. They spoke openly about their fears and desires, and with that vulnerability they discovered the beauty of true, unwavering friendship. But life moved forward. As winter approached, the dress was nearly complete. They decided to celebrate the transformation with a gathering of close friends, inviting laughter and warmth into Sarah's apartment. On a crisp winter afternoon, with fairy lights twinkling like stars, Sarah slipped into the revitalized dress. The fabric hugged her curves, the color glowing in the intimate glow of candlelight. As she twirled, the dress flowed around her like a dream rediscovered, stitched together with the laughter and tears of two brave women. When the friends arrived and saw Sarah in the dress, applause erupted. One friend exclaimed. Smiling proudly, Sarah turned to Emma, who stood by her side with glistening eyes. This moment, they weren't just celebrating a dress, but the journey they had taken together, a testament to resilience. Feeling buoyed by the warmth of friendship, Sarah raised her glass. Here's to new beginnings, everyone echoed. As they celebrated, laughter filled the air, completely enveloping any remnants of sadness that had once lingered. Emma watched Sarah dance and sparkle in that dress, feeling her heart swell. Together, they had crafted something beautiful from the ashes of loss. Quickly, months passed. The dress proudly hung in Sarah's apartment, a reminder of their journey, a symbol of friendship forged in the fires of heartbreak. Sarah continued to embrace her newfound independence, venturing into the world, exploring who she was outside the confines of her past. And then, on a bright spring morning during a hike, everything changed. Sarah was enjoying the fresh air when a tall figure approached a fellow hiker with warm, welcoming eyes and a smile that made her heart skip. Their eyes met and an undeniable spark flickered between them. He asked, clearly enchanted by Sarah. "Absolutely, you'll love it," she replied, her cheeks warming under his gaze. In that moment, Sarah felt a sense of possibility flooding her soul. The connection was instant, effortless, and as they spoke about trivial things, time seemed to stretch infinitely. Every smile exchanged, every laugh shared, brought her closer to a feeling she thought she might never have again. That evening she called Emma, her voice bright with excitement. "You won't believe what happened," Emma squealed, the excitement palpable through the phone. "Oh my God, I felt something, Emma, something real," Sarah said, her heart bursting with hope. "That's amazing, you deserve this chance at happiness. Just remember, it started with love for yourself," Emma urged, knowing how far they had both come. As spring rolled into summer, their friendship flourished alongside the new possibilities blossoming in their lives. Sarah continued to grow, embracing adventures and new relationships. Emma too built her own journey, traveling to places she had always dreamed of, but they never forgot their roots. Every now and then they met in that little park where everything had begun. They'd sit beneath the old oak tree, reminiscing about that rainy day when the journey had truly started, when one had found the dress in the mud and both had found themselves. "Look how far we've come," Emma said one afternoon, watching children play nearby, their laughter echoing in the air. "Yeah," Sarah replied, her voice filled with joy. In every laughter, in every tear, in every joyful shared moment, they discovered that love loosens its grip when it's shared. Two strangers had stumbled upon not only a wedding dress, but a profound connection, one that proved healing comes when people dare to share their light, even through the darkest of times. The road ahead remained unwritten, but together they were ready, armed with hope, laughter, and the indomitable spirit of friendship. No longer just women submerged in heartache, they had forged a path lit with the promise of what lay ahead, knowing that love in all its forms was always worth the journey. The rain fell in a relentless dance, a gray curtain draping over the small town. The streets were slick, the air heavy with the scent of wet earth. Sarah pulled her coat tighter around her as she walked through the deserted park, her heart just as drenched as the world around her. She was trying to clear her mind, reflect on her life, and probably avoid the pain that clung to her like the damp around her. As she walked, her boots squelched in the mud, each step sending a small spray of water up onto her legs. That's when something pale caught her eye. At first, she thought it was just an odd piece of trash, a discarded plastic bag. But as she got closer, her heart jolted. It was a wedding dress, partially buried in the mud, the lace sleeves peeking out like a ghost from a past that refused to let go. Curiosity pulled her in. She knelt down, her heart racing. The dress was muddy, but it was beautiful in a haunting way, delicate embroidery and soft tulle caught in the unfortunate mess. For a moment, it felt like the dress was speaking to her, a silent reflection of everything she had hoped for and lost. Who wore it? What dreams had it once held? Sarah's mind raced, and a pang of empathy flooded her. She thought about her own wedding plans, how everything had crumbled just days before. She had imagined herself in lace and satin, walked down the aisle in front of friends and family. Here she was, left with a heart full of void. As she pulled the dress out of the muck, the cool fabric slipped through her fingers like a forgotten memory. It felt both beautiful and tragic. Just then, the sound of footsteps broke through the quiet. The voice was soft yet filled with urgency. Startled, Sarah looked up. A woman stood a few feet away, her hair plastered to her forehead with rain, eyes wide with disbelief. Sarah asked, feeling a rush of unexpected connection in that moment. "Yes." "I'm Emma," the woman replied breathlessly, rushing forward. As Emma reached out to touch the fabric, her fingers trembled. I know what it feels like," Sarah replied, surprise filling her voice. A strange silence filled the space between them. In that moment, two strangers stood in the rain, both clinging to pieces of their shattered dreams. The air was thick with emotion, but also a sense of solidarity as they ventured deeper into their shared experiences. "It's like we both thought we knew what love looked like, but life had other plans," Sarah said eventually, summoning honesty from the depths of her heart. Emma nodded, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I planned every detail, the flowers, the cake, everything. I was so excited," Sarah echoed, her own heartbreak creeping back in. The dress was perfect. As they stood there, bathed in the soft glow of a fading evening light, something began to shift. It was as if they were pulling together, stitching together the fragments of their hearts with shared stories of loss and healing. Emma asked, her voice breaking the silence. "I'd love that," Sarah replied, a spark igniting in her heart. With a newfound sense of purpose, they took the dress to Sarah's small apartment, the walls filled with memories of a past life that felt haunting. Together, they spread the dress across a worn-out table, each looking at it as if it were a canvas yearning for renewal. Over the next few days, they shared laughter and tears in that little space, the dress transforming under their care. They washed the mud away, carefully repairing seams and breathing life back into every delicate fold. It felt like they were doing more than just restoring fabric. With each cut and stitch, they were stitching together their own souls. As the light filtered through Sarah's window a week later, the dress began to look radiant again, alive with possibility. Sarah stood back looking at their work. Emma smiled, a warmth blooming in her chest. "It's more than just a dress." But as the days turned to weeks, the weight of their shared sadness started to lift. They found joy in each other's company, bonding over cups of tea and late-night talks filled with deep revelations. The park that had once seemed so isolating became a place of connection, a sanctuary where they could share their stories openly and feel understood. One afternoon, as they walked through the park, Sarah glanced over at Emma. Emma nodded, her hair dancing in the gentle breeze. It's true. And that was exactly what they were doing, finding something extraordinary. They shared memories of their broken relationships, laughed about the mistakes they had made, and began dreaming of futures filled with possibility. Their conversations ranged from healing to adventure, each one like a thread weaving them closer together. As laughter echoed through the trees, Sarah turned to Emma, her voice suddenly serious. Emma paused, reflecting. Of course, love doesn't vanish, sometimes it just transforms. Weeks turned into months, and the dress was finally complete. They invited a small group of friends over to celebrate their joint triumph, a gathering meant to honor not just the dress but everything it represented. On the day of the reveal, Sarah slipped into the gown, feeling butterflies dance in her stomach. The fabric lifted like a whisper of hope as she twirled in front of the mirror. It fit like it was made for her, but it was more than just a dress now. It was a story, a celebration of survival and friendship. As her friends arrived, they gasped collectively, applause ringing in the air. "You look stunning," one of them exclaimed, but Sarah looked back at Emma, whose wide smile mirrored her own. "We did this together." Their celebration unfolded with laughter, music, and memories. The dress hung in the corner, glowing in the party lights like a beacon of hope. It became a metaphor for rebirth, echoing stories of resilience. But as they danced and shared in the joy, Sarah felt something shift within her, a need for more. Perhaps love could indeed bloom in unexpected places. A few days later, she found herself back in the park, reflecting on everything that had transpired. Maybe she was ready to step into a new chapter of her life. While hiking along a familiar trail, Sarah encountered a tall figure walking towards her. He had warm hazel eyes and a smile that felt inviting, like home. He flashed her a friendly nod. "Yes, it really is," she replied, feeling a rush of warmth. They struck up a conversation effortlessly, the world around them blurring into the background. Sarah felt that familiar spark, something she thought had faded from her heart. They spoke about mutual interests, adventures, and before long exchanged numbers. Later that evening, Sarah called Emma, excitement spilling over. "I think I met someone," Emma squealed in delight. "Tell me everything." As the weeks progressed, Sarah explored this new relationship with a hopeful heart, while also deepening her connection with Emma. They met often, sharing both the ups and downs of their respective journeys, each one encouraging the other to embrace the beauty of what lay ahead. As summer approached, the park seemed to come alive with the vibrancy of flowers, laughter ringing through the air. Sarah felt electricity coursing through her veins, the taste of new possibilities energizing her. One afternoon, as she met Emma in the park, she found herself lost in thought, reflecting on how much had changed. She asked, glancing at her friend. "It's astounding," Emma replied, her tone bright. Together, they shared joyful laughter, celebrating how they had transformed those moments of despair into connections that flourished in joy. In the depths of heartbreak, they had found friendship, and within that bond, so much more. Months turned into a year. Sarah had embraced love once more, and Emma was thriving, discovering her own passions and dreams. The wedding dress, a once dismal existence, now hung in Sarah's living room as a testament to resilience. They continued to meet regularly at the park where it all began. Each gathering was filled with memories, laughter, and the kind of warmth that was almost palpable. One sunny afternoon, the two women sat beneath the oak tree, content and at ease, reminiscing about their journey. It was there, among the laughter spilled from their hearts, that they realized they had unearthed something profound. "We didn't just find a dress that day," Emma remarked, smiling as she looked at Sarah. "Yes," Sarah agreed, her heart swelling. In that moment, they understood the beauty of life's unpredictable journey. It wasn't just about love lost or dreams dashed. It was about forging a path where hope could thrive, where unexpected friendships blossomed, and where life taught them to find beauty in the most unlikely places. As they laughed and basked in the sun, they knew this was just the beginning. Life may pulse with uncertainties, but together they were ready to embrace whatever came next, hand in hand, heart to heart. The rain hammered down relentlessly, turning the walkways of Cedar Park into glistening streams. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and most people stayed indoors, avoiding the downpour. But for Sarah, stepping outside was what she needed. Her heart felt heavy after a rough breakup, and she needed space to breathe, to think. Trudging through the mud, she spotted something white peeking out from the grimy ground. At first, she thought it was merely a piece of trash, maybe a plastic bag caught in the wind. But as she drew closer, her heart raced with a mix of disbelief and curiosity. There, half buried in mud and muck, was a wedding dress. Without thinking, she knelt down, the chill of the wet earth creeping into her jeans. The dress was tangled and drenched, yet it still possessed a haunting beauty. The lace was delicate, and the bodice, though stained, had a shimmer that hinted at magic once held within its fabric. With shaking hands, she grasped the muddy hem and pulled it out, revealing more of its elegant design. What was such a stunning piece doing here, abandoned and forlorn? Sarah felt a pang of empathy rush through her. She thought of the dreams this dress must have carried, the hopes of the woman who had worn it just days, maybe hours, before it was tossed aside. She found herself wondering about the bride's story. Had she experienced the joy of love before descending into heartbreak? Sarah knew that film all too well. Just then, a voice broke through, startling her. "Is that?" Startled, Sarah jerked her head up to see a woman standing a few feet away, her eyes wide with shock. Rain dripped from her hair, soaking her clothing, but the look of desperation on her face was impossible to miss. Sarah asked, feeling an unexpected connection to the stranger. "Yes." Emma rushed closer, her voice breaking as she reached for the fabric. "I'm so sorry," Sarah said, handing over the dress. Emma took a deep, shaking breath, gently running her fingers over the lace. "I was supposed to wear this last week, but I canceled my wedding." "That sounds familiar," Sarah admitted, her voice softening. She hesitated for a moment, but then the words spilled out. "I canceled mine too." In that moment, they shared a fragile silence, two strangers standing in the rain, clothed in their heartbreak. An understanding passed between them, a connection that only comes from shared grief. "I thought everything was perfect," Emma said, tears welling in her eyes. "I planned every detail. I was so excited, but then, I was in love too," Sarah replied, the warmth of empathy pulling her closer. They stood together in the rain, two souls momentarily intertwined by loss and sadness. The weight of their stories hung heavy in the air, but there was also an unexpected lightness, a bond forged from the shared experience of love turned bitter. Emma finally asked, her voice tinged with hope. "Maybe we can help each other," Sarah suggested, her heart racing at the idea. Emma's face brightened with a spark of determination. Yes, with the dress nestled in their arms, they made their way to Sarah's apartment. As they stepped inside, a flood of memories enveloped them, framing pictures of what used to be, echoes of laughter now tinged with sadness. But today there was a new purpose. They laid the dress across an old dining table, and it felt like a blank canvas waiting for revival. Together they began to clean it gently, washing away the grime while stitching and mending with newfound enthusiasm. Each snip of the scissors, each stitch of the needle became a powerful release. They would laugh, share stories, and sometimes cry, letting their emotions spill forth, unraveling the heavy threads of their heartache. In that sacred space, they began to find solace in one another. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, the wedding dress transformed, acquiring a new life. It was no longer just a reminder of broken promises. It became a testament to resilience forged through friendship. They stitched not only the fabric, but their own identities back together, piece by piece. One evening, as they sat surrounded by lace and threads, Sarah looked up from her work. Emma paused, reflecting on the question. "I believe love is absolutely worth it, but it's complicated." "Exactly," Sarah replied, her tone growing serious. They realized they were navigating the complexities of life, love, and heartbreak. With every conversation, they peeled back their layers, revealing the rawness of their emotions. In doing so, they formed a bond more profound than either had anticipated, one that would guide them through the storm. Weeks later, as the last stitches were sewn, an unspoken promise hung in the air. They decided to celebrate their hard work with a small gathering of close friends. On the day of the unveiling, Sarah donned the revived dress, feeling both nervous and exhilarated. She stood in front of the mirror, her reflection glowing as she spun. This dress wasn't just a dress anymore. It had become a symbol, a testament to their journey and the softness that blooms after the harshest storms. Their friends gathered in Sarah's apartment, voices echoing laughter and support. When they spotted Sarah in the wedding dress, a cheer erupted, mingling with applause. "You look stunning," one friend exclaimed, while others hugged Sarah, sharing the joy of her transformation. But as she basked in the support, Sarah felt a tug on her heart. This wasn't just about the dress. It was a celebration of resilience, an acknowledgement of healing through friendship. She looked at Emma, who stood by her side, her smile radiant. "This isn't just my doll, this is ours," Sarah declared, turning to face their guests. With glasses raised, they cheered. The room swelled with excitement, a powerful reminder that love, though spurred by pain, could be a force of unity and creation. As time flowed on, they both continued to cherish their newfound friendship. But one day, a decision loomed in the air as Sarah approached Emma in the park. Emma glanced at her, her expression thoughtful. "It's tough, and I think it can be scary." The thought ignited something in Sarah, and soon she began to explore what it meant to date again. Yet the path was twisted, filled with uncertainty. On a golden afternoon, while Sarah hiked a trail she had discovered, she came across a stranger, a man with charming eyes and an easy smile. They exchanged words, laughter flowing between them effortlessly. With each shared glance, Sarah felt the warmth of possibility ignite within her, a feeling she thought had vanished forever. The weeks that followed saw Sarah and the stranger grow closer. They explored corners of the town together, shared meals, and forged a bond layered in laughter and understanding. But through it all, Sarah would find herself reflecting back on her journey and the dress that had united her with Emma. One day, as she basked in the glow of her new relationship, Sarah realized she had to tell Emma. She called her friend, excitement bubbling through the line. "You won't believe it, Emma," Emma replied, her voice buoyant. As Sarah shared every detail, she felt Emma's encouragement surrounding her like a warm hug. It was in that moment she realized how vital their bond had become, how they didn't just share in heartbreak, but also in healing and hope. Just as Sarah's new relationship blossomed, Emma too began to explore outside her comfort zone. She joined a local art class, pouring her emotions into colors on canvas, finding herself through the strokes of a brush. One day, on a crisp autumn afternoon, the two met in the park, sharing stories and reflecting on their lives. Emma asked, chuckling lightly as she gestured to the towering trees around them, their leaves turning golden and red. "I know, right? It's strange how something so broken led us here together," Sarah replied, savoring the moment. The trees danced in the wind, a gentle reminder of the seasons of life and love. They both felt a strange sense of renewal within their hearts. As the winter months approached, they continued to weave their newfound paths, both filled with unexpected twists and remarkable connections. Sarah found love in the most unexpected place, while Emma continued to blossom artistically, her paintings evolving alongside her spirit. Then one day, as the first snowflakes flecked the ground, a quiet moment settled over them. They walked side by side through the park, laughing and reminiscing a beautiful bond forged in the mud, now strengthened. "I'm grateful we found each other," Emma said, her voice sincere. "Me too," Sarah replied, her heart swelling. As they shared smiles and laughter, both women understood the profound truth of their journey. Life continued to throw challenges their way, but together they faced it all, thriving through heartache and embracing the light that illuminated their lives. And so they knew amid the mud and the tears beauty could emerge, not just in a wedding dress found abandoned, but in the deep, unyielding connections they forged atop the ruins of their pasts. Their destinies had become interwoven, like threads of the finest tapestry, a reminder that every loss can spark something beautiful and new. Together, they celebrated love in its many forms, ready to conquer whatever life had left to offer. The rain had fallen heavily for days, saturating the earth and turning the walkways of Maplewood Park into a muck-filled mess. The clouds hung low, casting a dreary shadow over everything, and most people stayed indoors. But for Emma, the storm had created a strange sense of calm. She was out for a walk, seeking solace in the quiet, a place where her heart could breathe just a little. As she navigated the slippery path, something white caught her eye, half buried in mud. At first, she thought it was a piece of trash. But as she stepped closer, her heart raced. It was a wedding dress, drenched and smeared with mud, yet still exuding a haunting beauty. Kneeling down, she reached out to touch it. Her fingers traced the delicate lace, tangled and frayed. In that moment, a wave of empathy washed over her. This dress had a story. Who wore it? What dreams had it held? Emma felt a sharp pang in her chest, a reminder of the dreams she once held, of a wedding that now seemed like a distant fantasy. She stood there, the dress in her hands, and felt a rush of emotions. It felt like a symbol of hope and heartache all at once. Just then, a sound broke her reverie, a voice, shaky but filled with urgency. Emma turned around to see a woman, hair soaked and eyes wide, standing just a few feet away. She looked as if she had just stepped out of a storm herself. "Are you?" the woman asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Emma exclaimed, her heart leaping. The woman rushed forward. Her voice trembled with relief and disbelief as she reached for the dress, her fingers brushing against the fabric. "I was supposed to wear this last week," she said, tears brimming in her eyes. Emma felt a strange connection surge between them, bound by shared grief. "I understand." The words hung in the air, creating a bridge of understanding. They stood there, two strangers caught in a tangle of heartbreak, but somehow it felt comforting. Emma asked gently, her heart aching for the woman who stood before her. "I thought he was the one," the woman said, her voice shaking. "We planned everything, every detail was perfect, but just when it was time to pull the trigger." Emma nodded, feeling her own heartache resonate with the honesty in the woman's words. "I thought my love was real too," she confessed, her voice quiet. In that moment, the rain let up, leaving the air fresher, as if the world had cleared for them both. Standing in the mud, they shared their stories, their hearts entwining through the pain. The weight of what they had lost lingered between them, but they sensed something else, an unspoken bond, a flicker of hope igniting from shared experiences. The woman asked, glancing at the muddy dress. "Maybe we can bring some life back into it," Emma suggested, a spark igniting in her chest. The woman hesitated, but then caught Emma's eye, a smile breaking through her tears. "I love that idea." With the dress held tightly in their arms, they made their way to a nearby cafe, a cozy little nook that offered warmth and some privacy from the world outside. Once they were settled, they placed the dress on a table, its damage now a part of its story. As they sipped their warm drinks, their conversations flowed, each sharing details of their lives that had led them here. For Emma, it felt freeing to talk about her canceled wedding. She revealed the excitement that had once filled her, how she had imagined standing in front of friends and family, exchanging vows under a blue sky, all the while believing that love would conquer all. But reality had proved different. Relationship had unraveled at the seams, and now she found herself lost in the aftermath. For the woman whose name was Lily, it was cathartic to voice her own heartache as well. "I thought love would come with certainty," she said, her eyes gleaming with unshed tears. As their stories unfolded, something shifted in the air. They were no longer just two women sharing moments of despair, they were creating a tapestry of resilience. With each word, the weight of their grief lessened, replaced by a budding friendship. "I feel like this dress has become a part of our journey," Lily said, a whisper of hope threading through her voice. Emma felt a rush of warmth. The idea ignited enthusiasm in both of them. Over the next few days, they met regularly, determined to restore the dress to its former glory. Inside Sarah's cramped studio apartment, they spread the dress across a table, gathered supplies, and began their work. They laughed and cried together, each stitch a step toward healing. The mud soon disappeared, revealing the delicate layers beneath. Together, they transformed despair into creativity, turning the dress into a symbol of rebirth. As they worked, their conversations meandered from heartbreak to healing. They spoke of love's complexities, the joy, the confusion, the pain. Each new revelation helped them understand the layers within themselves that had been hidden by grief. One evening, while tangled in threads and laughter, Sarah looked up thoughtfully. Lily paused, her brow furrowing. "Yes, I think it is. Love can be reckless and scary, but it can also be exhilarating." "Exactly," Sarah replied, her voice growing stronger. As the weeks passed, their friendship deepened. They found joy in their shared experiences, discovering the importance of support in the face of adversity. One afternoon, while taking a break from their work, they sipped tea and gazed at the dress hanging on the wall, partially mended yet still not fully restored. "It's beautiful," Lily said, her eyes glimmering. "Yes, it does," Sarah agreed, smiling. As they shared in the excitement, they realized this dress was more than just fabric. It had transformed into a vessel for their growth, their resilience, and hope living intertwined. After weeks of hard work, finally, the day had come. They celebrated their accomplishment with a gathering of friends and family. Sarah slipped into the newly revived dress, the fabric hugging her in all the right places. This dress, once shrouded in heartache, now emanated strength and vibrancy. As her friends entered the apartment, they gasped in delight. "Emma, you look stunning," shouted another friend. Lily stood beside Sarah, her heart swelling with pride. They embraced, both understanding the significance of this moment. "Today isn't just about the dress," she told their friends. Laughter filled the room, the air thick with warmth and joy. In that space, Sarah felt a newfound sense of belonging. The fears and doubts that had once consumed her began to fade, replaced by the realization that she wasn't alone. They danced, intermingling joy and celebration. The dress became a beacon of friendship, their journey morphing into a story of hope. As the music swelled, Sarah looked around at her friends, her heart lifting. Weeks turned into months. Life felt lighter, filled with moments of laughter and joy. But amidst the newfound beauty, there was still a lingering question in Sarah's heart. Could she love again? One evening in the park, as they reflected on their journey, she turned to Lily. Lily studied her for a moment, a knowing smile on her face. "If you feel ready, then it's never too soon." That night, Sarah began exploring this new chapter. She signed up for a dating app, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. To her surprise, she found someone who shared her interests and values. Their first date was filled with laughter, a refreshing sense of connection. As the weeks unfolded, Lily encouraged Sarah every step of the way. "You deserve happiness," she said, her voice warm and steady. With each passing date, Sarah felt herself evolving, shedding the remnants of her past and reveling in new experiences. Meanwhile, Lily embraced her own journey of self-discovery, immersing herself in art and community. One sunny afternoon, as they strolled through the park together, Sarah turned to Lily. "It's incredible," Lily replied, her voice rising with excitement. "You know," Sarah said, her heart brimming, "I think we need to celebrate our resilience. How about a gallery showing of your artwork?" A light flickered in Lily's eyes. "That's a brilliant idea." Their excitement was electric. They poured their energy into the project, fabricating a unique exhibit that showcased art intertwined with personal stories, each piece a symbol of their experiences. As the night of the gallery opening approached, buzz filled the air. Friends from near and far arrived, drinks flowing and laughter echoing. As guests marveled at every piece, Sarah saw the dress, a remnant of their journey, framed beautifully in a corner. Amidst the crowd, she caught sight of someone familiar. James, the man she'd been dating, stepped into the room, his smile brightening her heart. They embraced, laughter spilling over their connection. He said, glancing around. In that moment, Sarah felt a rush of warmth, a sense of possibility blossoming within her. It was a reminder that love can manifest in many forms, encouraging growth and creativity. As the gallery filled with warmth and joy, Sarah turned to Lily, who was engaging with friends nearby. They locked eyes, the bond between them solidified by everything they had endured. And then, while taking a break, Sarah stepped outside, enjoying the cool breeze. Her heart soared as she breathed in the night air filled with promise. Just then, she noticed James coming outside, eyes sparkling in the dim light. "Of course," she replied, smiling. As they stood in the glow of the moonlight, Sarah felt a sense of clarity. He nodded, his expression warm. "It's been refreshing to see how you've embraced everything." At that moment, their connection deepened. They spoke openly about their hopes, dreams, and fears, both feeling the weight of the past begin to lift. As the night wind whispered around them, Sarah felt anchored in the present, filled with hope for the future. Their hands brushed against one another, and it felt right like two pieces of a puzzle shifting into place. Months turned into seasons. Sarah and James remained close, often exploring art galleries, hiking trails, and dining under the stars. Lily's artwork flourished, filled with color and emotion, drawing inspiration from her experiences and journeys. They often reminisced about how a wedding dress found in the mud had sparked tumultuous chains of events, leading them both to unexpected paths of joy. During one of their regular meetups, Sarah glanced at Lily, a warmth glowing in her heart. "I don't think I could have done any of this without you." Lily smiled, feeling a rush of gratitude. "And you've changed mine, Emma." As the seasons shifted, their friendship only deepened. They faced life's challenges head-on, always supporting one another, realizing the true strength of connection. And so, with their hearts open to whatever came next, they walked into the future with friendship blossoming in every corner and love taking root in their souls. They were living proof that out of mud and sorrow, beauty could emerge, reminding them that life's surprises sometimes lead to the most extraordinary journeys. The rain poured relentlessly, soaking everything in sight. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the park was almost empty, save for a lone figure clad in a dark coat splashing through puddles. Sarah felt lost, her heart weighed down by memories of a broken engagement. She had decided to take a walk, hoping the chill in the air would cool the ache in her chest. As she trudged along the path, her boot kicked something soft and heavy. Curious, she bent down and shoved aside some leaves and mud. What she uncovered made her gasp, a wedding dress caked with dirt and soggy from the relentless rain. Her heart pounded as she knelt beside it. The fabric was stained, the lace edges curling. But even in its tattered state, there was something hauntingly beautiful about it, a ghost of a fairy tale. Who had it belonged to? Had the wearer been as excited as she once was? Had she, too, envisioned walking down the aisle beneath a blue sky? In the quiet of the evening, Sarah could almost hear the echoes of laughter and hopeful dreams woven into the fabric. Just then, she heard footsteps crunching against the gravel. Sarah looked up to find a woman coming towards her, drenched from head to toe, eyes wide as she took in the scene. "Is that?" she gasped, breathless. "Yes, I found it here," Sarah replied, holding it up like precious treasure. "Can I?" The woman's voice trembled with a mix of disbelief and hope. "Of course," Sarah said, handing it over. The woman, who introduced herself as Emma, brushed her fingers over the damp fabric. Tears pooled in her eyes. "I was supposed to wear this last week." A silence enveloped them, heavy with shared heartache. Sarah's own memories flooded back, the excitement of her own wedding plans, the laughter of friends, the sudden betrayal that crushed it all. "I did the same," Sarah admitted softly, her vulnerability spilling into the air between them. Emma looked up, their eyes locking in an instant moment of understanding. How do we let go so much of ourselves? This simple question hung in the air. It was a question Sarah had been asking herself repeatedly, a question that felt insurmountable. "I don't know." Emma nodded, her brow furrowed. "But this dress, it was my dream, my future, and now it's just..." "Maybe it's not ruined," Sarah said, a thought striking her like lightning. "What if we can bring it back to life?" Emma's eyes lit up as if she could see a glimmer of hope. "I do," Sarah replied, growing more confident. And just like that, a plan formed between them. Together, they gathered the dress, now weighed down with mud but filled with new purpose, and made their way back to Sarah's small apartment. Inside, the atmosphere transformed. They hung the dress on the back of a door, and the sight of it, tattered yet still beautiful, filled the room with a strange energy. They rummaged through Sarah's supplies, pulling out cleaning products, scissors, and sewing kits. The atmosphere, once heavy with pain, now sparkled with the excitement of possibility. As they worked through the night, they shared more than just stories. They shared laughter, letting the weight of their past slip away, piece by piece. Emma told Sarah about her dream wedding, the flowers, the music, the little details she had painstakingly planned. "I had envisioned pure happiness, but it turned to ash," she said, her voice breaking for just a moment. "I feel you," Sarah said genuinely. "I thought love would always be the answer." Hours turned into days. The dress began to transform. The mud disappeared, replaced by a soft, glowing beauty that echoed new beginnings. Each stitch they added was a new thread in their narratives, a testament to resilience and rebirth. One afternoon, while taking a break, Sarah glanced at the dress hanging proudly. She asked, her voice reflective. Emma nodded, her brow knitted in thought. "Maybe it's not about the fairy tale itself, but about the meaning we assign to it." "Exactly," Sarah replied. With each conversation, a bond began to form, a connection built not on the remnants of heartache, but on rebuilding. Days stretched into weeks, and finally the last stitches were sewn. They stood back and admired their work. The dress had been revived, but it was more than that. It had become a symbol of their friendship, their journeys, their growth. They decided to hold a small gathering, inviting a few friends to celebrate their achievement. On the day of the gathering, as Emma slipped into the newly resurrected dress, she felt like a different person. As her friends arrived, applause erupted, joy filling the air. One friend exclaimed. Emma beamed, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude, not just for the dress but for Sarah. She announced, glancing at Sarah, who stood beside her. The room filled with laughter and love, and for the first time in a long while, both women felt free and tethered from the chains of their pasts. They danced, intertwined in joy, the music wrapping around them like a warm embrace. But as the evening wore on, Sarah caught a glimpse of the dress and a feeling began to stir in her heart. She whispered to Emma amidst the celebration. "I don't know," Emma replied, her tone serious, "but I do think we need to keep moving forward. We can't let this experience be the end." And just like that, the idea of adventure blossomed between them. They began planning what came next, deciding to take the dress on a journey to discover more about themselves. They agreed to wear it to various places. It would become a symbol of liberation, their stories woven into its fabric. As they set their plans into motion, they decided to visit places that had meaning, places that spoke to their souls. They laughed as they mapped out their journey, filled with excitement for the adventures awaiting them. However, just as they were about to leave for their first destination, Sarah received a text from her ex-fiancé. The message read, "I need to talk to you." A shiver ran down her spine. The feeling of dread crashed over her like a wave. The happiness and newfound sense of freedom she felt began to wane. Emma asked, instinctively sensing the shift. "It's him," Sarah stammered, her fingers trembling. "Forget him," Emma said quickly, her voice firm. But Sarah hesitated, torn between the past and the promise of their new journey. She felt her heart flutter with the old wounds, and the weight of memories began to seep back in. "What if he wants to apologize?" "Sarah, you don't owe him anything," Emma interjected, concern lining her features. "We've come too far. This dress represents a new chapter for both of us." As the clock ticked, Sarah found herself in turmoil. Could she really face him? Would it pull her back into the life she was trying to leave behind, or would she find closure on her own terms? The decision loomed heavy in the air as the sun dipped beyond the horizon, casting shadows around them. Leaves rustled softly in the evening breeze as if urging her to choose wisely. And in that moment she felt something shift, an undeniable pull towards the past that she had fought so hard to escape. Emma's fierce loyalty calmed her turbulent thoughts, but Sarah knew she had to make her own choice. "Let's just go on this adventure," Sarah finally declared, her voice steady. As they stood together, adrenaline rushing, they made a pact to approach whatever lay ahead with strength together. But just as they turned their backs to the text and the past, Sarah felt her heart pound. The phone buzzed again, a call this time. Her stomach dropped. Would it be worth answering? Would facing the past steal the future they were carving for themselves? With a mixture of dread and courage, she took a breath and stared at the phone, the screen illuminating her decision in the dim light of the room. Would this one call redefine everything they had fought to reclaim? She lifted her trembling hand, hovering over the screen. The anticipation hung thick in the air. What would she choose, the past or the promise of a new beginning? And in that pivotal moment, everything hung in the balance: her future, her very identity, and the journey they were about to embark on could shift drastically based on one simple choice. The weight of their stories intertwined as the call rang on. Emma's eyes held a mixture of support and fear, waiting for the decision that could change everything. Would Sarah answer the call, or would she choose to step away from the past forever? The tension swelled and the moment stretched into eternity. The answer, when it came, would set them on a path neither of them could predict. As the phone continued to ring, they both stood on the edge of the unknown, their journey teetering between what had been and what could still be.